and get the world to focus on what's actually happening in India-controlled Kashmir?
You see, David, Kashmir was a disputed territory between Pakistan and India, and this was confirmed by two United Nations Security Council resolutions, which said that the people of Kashmir will be allowed through a plebiscite under the UN auspices to decide whether they want to be part of India or Pakistan. Now that right was never given to them. But worse, in 2019, 5th August, they had the special status until this right of self-determination was given to them. They took away the special status. And they clamped down on them by sending these 90,000 troops there, and basically Kashmir is an open prison. Now, our problem is that we are not now talking about it as a territorial issue. We are simply talking that allow the Kashmiris, and we in Pakistan have given them the other option. They don't have to come either to Pakistan or India, just their right, democratic right, if they want to be an independent country. So this is where it is. India, clearly the ball lies in Indian court. What do they do now? They cannot indefinitely have put these people in an open prison. Because having taken this step, I don't know what they expected. They are now trying to change the demography of Kashmir by bringing settlers from outside, which was also in the constitution provision prevented this from happening, that settlers would not be allowed to settle in Kashmir. And then the Geneva Convention, it states clearly that you cannot change the demography of an occupied country. You know, until that status is clear whether they're part of India, you can't change the demography. So they are actually trying to convert them from Muslim majority to a minority.
How dangerous a situation? It's been rather forgotten because so much else has been going on. But how here we have two nuclear powers at odds with each other, and there's fighting almost all the time, isn't there, at a low level? You know, how dangerous a situation is Kashmir?
Peter, if you look at the flashpoints, probably the nuclear flashpoint right now in the world is Pakistan-India. Because nowhere else is there such a situation, where there are two nuclear-armed countries who've had 3 wars before they were nuclear-armed. So we haven't had a war since then, so because of the deterrent.
I think as a 13-year-old you wanted to join up, didn't you, in 1960?
I still remember.
65, yeah.
I still remember that. But I feel that, you know, we had this little skirmish when there was a suicide bomb which went off in Kashmir. Indian soldiers were killed, and they blamed us. We kept saying that we will give us any evidence, and we will hold those responsible. We will take them, but have them punished, or even give them to India. Rather than giving us evidence, they bombed us. Fortunately, there was no loss of life. So, you know, Pakistan also retaliated, again bombed somewhere, and then they shot down an Indian plane. So in that situation, I mean, I as a chief executive felt it could have gone anywhere. We immediately returned the pilot, you know, was shot down to cool down things, because once two nuclear-armed countries get into the situation like we did, it can go anywhere. So I think I actually addressed the United Nations too, and told them that, look, you came into being to stop this sort of thing. There's an unresolved issue. It's your own Security Council resolution. In East Timor, the people were given the right. They passed a resolution. They were given a right to decide the destiny, plebiscite. They became independent. Why not Kashmir? And unfortunately, it's because of once, you know, if you're big enough, you have a huge market for other goods, that gives you the leverage actually to get away with, you know, which East Timor could not get away with.
Can I ask you, all this seems incredibly familiar to Palestinians. what's happening to Indian-controlled Kashmir. It's almost as if Israel has given India the template, although that's probably a very crude way of putting it. But how dangerous is the liaison between Israel and India right now?
I feel that, well, they are very close, I mean, should we read anything into it that Narendra Modi visits Israel and then he comes back and clamps down on Kashmir and, the events of 5th August 2019, do we think that he got his instruction from there? Because that's what Israel has done. They have just built such a strong security apparatus and they just crush anything. They will send people in, they will kill, assassinate, and then they have total immunity. They, whatever the United Nations General Assembly says, they have complete confidence in the veto power which the US has in the Security Council. So they get away with anything. And I feel that India feels, because now it is being used, or it is considered a bulwark against China, they are now part of the Quad. I feel it's the same thing. India can get away with anything. My whole point is that when they ask us to comment on human rights elsewhere, the worst human rights violation is in Kashmir. Nowhere, maybe in Israel, but nowhere are things as bad as they are in Kashmir.
Were you pressurized by any Gulf country to recognize Israel?
No, we weren't. No one pressurized us. In any case, Pakistan is a democratic country. There's no way we can take a decision without carrying our people with us.
So there was at no point did someone whisper in your ear and say, why don't you join? This is the incentive for joining the Abraham Accords.
No one did.